10:05. We'll call the hearing to order. Welcome. This is a public hearing on the proposed rules for the laser hair removal program at TDLR. And thank you for being here. Before we get started, we want to introduce the staff that's here. We'll go around and do introductions. I'm Brad Bowman. I'm the General Counsel here at TDLR.
I'm Colleen Tran. I'm Assistant General Counsel.
I'm Pauline Easley, the Rules Coordinator for this program.
I'm Rita Wallace, I'm the Assistant Rules Coordinator.
Wendy Pello, one of the Assistant General Counsels.
Meredith Hoffman.
Well, go ahead.
Compliance. Specialist. Heather Muir, Compliance.
Stephen Mills, Compliance.
George Ferry, Director of Compliance.
Okay, so we're going to turn around and...
The reason we're here today, the purpose of this is to get your comments, feedback, input that you may have on these proposed rules. It's an opportunity for any interested person to comment on the rules. And a little background, the reason we're all here is in the last legislative session there was a bill that transferred 13 programs from the Department of State Health Services over to TDLR in 2 phases. The first phase involved 7 programs, and that happened in October of last year. That was the transfer date of those programs. The second phase includes 6 programs, which includes this program, laser hair, and that transfer is scheduled to take place on November 1st under that bill. So these proposed rules that we have out for comment right now are to implement that transfer and to bring the program over from DSHS to TDLR. The proposed rules were published in the Texas Register. They're also out on our website, and there's a 30-day public comment period. That comment period ends on May 22nd, so there's still time to get written comments in. And of course, if you're here today to make comments, that will be considered a comment as well that we'll consider for possible changes to the rules in that process as well. If you want to make written comments, there are instructions on our website on how to do that. We have an email address that's set up to receive those comments. It's erule.comments@tdlr.texas.gov. So you can submit written comments there if you'd like to do that. We have copies of the proposed rules on the table. If you didn't pick one up, also there's a sign-in sheet if you would please sign in. And if you want to make a comment, we have comment forms. If you'd please fill one out and just give those either to me or to Pauline. Okay, so some just kind of ground rules for the hearing. Again, the purpose is to hear from you, to hear your input, comments on these proposed rules. And you may have questions about the rules. We may not be in a position to answer those today or to respond to your comments. What we're going to do is take all of the comments that we receive here today and the written comments that we get during the comment period and kind of take all of those into account, and we'll respond in writing at the end of that process. And there may be changes that are made to the rules based on some comments, but we'll say whether the agency agrees or disagrees with comments and why. So we may not be answering your comment or your suggestion here today, but just understand that it's going to be considered as part of the whole process. So mainly we're here to listen. We're here to listen to you and in anything you have to tell us about these proposed rules and what you think. So we are recording the meeting, and we're also broadcasting over the internet on our website. So if you would please, when you come up to speak, if you would identify yourself, just say your name and who you represent, or if it's just yourself, and please also speak into the microphone so that we can can hear you, and anybody listening online can hear you as well. Okay, I'm going to turn it over to Colleen, who's going to kind of walk you through an overview of the rulemaking process that we're going through, and then some highlights of the proposed rules, and kind of give you an idea of what's changing, what's not changing from the current rules.
So I'm going to do rulemaking process first. So today's an opportunity for you guys to give us feedback, just so on the proposed rules, but just know that we're not going to make any decisions or anything today. After today, we're going to consider all of the comments, both from this public hearing that are oral or written, in that 30-day period, and then we will make changes or not make changes based on those. We'll respond to each and every comment that we get, whether or not changes are made and why, and those will also be published with the rule adoption. After we have made any of the necessary changes, the commission will consider them and vote on them, and those will also all be published again for everybody to see. So there's opportunities for you guys to see it, and we'll try and be as transparent as possible. The laser hair rules proposed are scheduled to be presented to the commission on July 14th at their commission meeting, with an effective date of November 1. And I know Brad said that, but I'll just reiterate it. So the laser hair removal programs the rules are substantively similar, and they were hard to look at. It's tough. So I just tried my best to reorganize, simplify them, reduce them down to the terms of what actually is needed in the rules. So you'll see things like your statutory authority cited in like 118, where your definitions are, and I tried to group where your requirements are for your facility, where your requirements are for your certificates, just so that you could get to them faster. Some of the provisions are copied verbatim from what was at DSHS over. Probably most of them are copied verbatim over. But some of it's been reworded or just reorganized for what I would hope is easier to work through. Some of the provisions that are in there you won't see because either we have them somewhere else, like in our Chapter 51 or in our 16 Texas Administrative Code 60. So they're duplicated already, and we already have that authority, or we already have that rule somewhere, so I didn't put them again in your rules. And so I tried not to, the goal was not to increase anybody's burden or change anything. It's just bring the program over and clean the language up, things that were redundant or anything like that. So it should all be familiar. So as Brad said earlier, any of the proposed rules that would alter or create a bigger burden or really change something, we will do once y'all are all here and can talk to me more. So, and we're so glad that you're here, and I'm really thankful to hear from the industry. So thanks.
I know.
And I wanted to just follow up on something that Colleen said. That right now, what we're anticipating is that there will be a July 14th meeting of the commission to adopt these rules, and there will be an opportunity at that meeting to give additional testimony as well. So this isn't the final opportunity to speak, but this is, we're in the middle of the comment period right now, so this is really the time that we're taking all those comments in to consider any possible changes to the rules. Okay, well, at this point I only have one comment form, but I'm going to call you up, and if anyone else there's still time. There will be opportunity if anybody else wants to come up and speak. You can do that. So Michelle DeLeon, if you'd come up and just
Or Fox.
yeah, we're not swearing you in. Just if you just say.
I'm gonna cross-examine.
So this is. Yeah, if you would just say your name, and if there's an organization or a business that you represent, if you tell us that, and then we'll just hear whatever you have to say. So.
Is it on?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Michelle DeLeon. I'm from Dallas, Texas. I represent Aesthetic Laser Academy and Spa. We are a certifying entity for you guys now. We've been proudly serving you guys for 4 years. I have personally been in the industry for 12. I was a former educator with another training facility, to which I found I wanted to open my own. So one of my students is here. So welcome you guys to hair removal. So we are excited that we have made a change over to TDLR. The hair removal, the whole rule itself is very confusing to a lot of people. It is something that as an educator, first of all, as a provider of services and now an educator as a certifying entity, this rule is very broadly interpreted on its own every day in different ways. Some of the things that are in this rule are absolutely amazing if we had more people following a lot of the rules of how they're set in place. So glad you enforcement guys are here. We're very excited. Some of the things that I just wanted to touch on that as a trainer, with me training some of the students that come through, whether they're career changers, they've been in the medical field or not, these are procedures that can create severe injuries to people. And I think in some aspects of this rule, we kind of go above and beyond to allow medical professionals such as doctors or business owners of facilities that are plastic surgeons, family practice, gynecologists, chiropractors. If you're an MD-DO or some kind of a doctor, it seems to supersede and override the rules, and they are able to perform without any kind of regarded education that they have to follow. There is no sort of paperwork documentation that they have to do other than filling out applications because it falls under what's called their scope. It is extremely frightening to see the amount of doctors that are gainful of equipment and then utilizing the delegation process by then delegating unqualified, unlicensed individuals providing services so that they do not have to pay, whether it's themselves or the people, or pay for education. This is creating a huge problem because we have people that are now just purchasing lasers, throwing them in rooms, and then now because of my delegation, I can then take an unlicensed, unqualified person and now put a laser in your hand. Most of the laser hair removal machines, I'm going to say about 90% of them, are multi-level platforms, meaning they provide laser hair removal services as well as anywhere from 3 to 4 to 14 to 20 different type of ablative procedures as well as non-ablative. Most of your hair removal procedures or your hair removal hand pieces, by a flip of a switch or by an exchange of a spot size, you can go from hair removal to a laser rejuvenation procedure. What we see is that we have a lot of people that very sneakingly are providing laser hair removal services, but on their menus, on their websites, and going further, what they're doing is providing these other services to people that then would fall under the TMB Rule 19317, where they should have a nurse practitioner or physician's assistant performing a medical intake over these procedures before they are permitted to provide them. This is very open, and it's very scary because we've got several different regulatory departments, one requiring one thing off of one particular device, and then we have another regulatory department requiring another. So the Texas Medical Board requires that anybody providing any other service besides laser hair removal, you are then required to have a MD-DO, physician's assistant, or a nurse practitioner provide what we have all these years already been doing, which is looking over medical history, looking over the contraindications of what could not be physically permitted, whether it's medication or a typical skin condition, such as keloid scarring. These people are supposed to qualify our clients to then be able to provide treatments, and we're seeing a lot of that being evaded. There is not currently any rule or any kind of expansion on what is the requirements for these people who are then delegating the appropriateness for the qualifications for us to provide these services. So a doctor can go and buy a laser. He has a medical office. He can then take an unqualified person, take a NP or PA. None of these people have had formal training or any sort of education about the indications or contraindications of the procedure, and now they're qualifying people and treating people. And that is following the rule. So it's kind of a health issue. One of the other bigger things, or not bigger, but just as big, when it comes to number 17 on, I'm going to say number 17 on page 4, or regarding the, for a certifying entity such as myself, when we are providing these treatments in an educational platform to make sure that our providers that we're teaching and certifying and giving these certificates to, the number 17, the head, neck, choosing 4 body parts off a person is not enough. This part of the rule has been accepted. DSHS has accepted other areas besides this for years now. It works very well. I have a list that I'm going to email all of you guys, which has to do with what I'm about to say. There are actually 22 areas on the body part, or on the body, that are parts of the body that it's imperative that any person providing a service should know how to navigate and work around the area, all the way from the forehead to the tip of the toe. If somebody is working on the forehead, they have to be mindful of the hairline, they have to be mindful of vascular, they have to be mindful of pigment. The toes, depending on the modality or handpiece that you have, if you don't make sure that the client doesn't have nail polish off the toe, or if the toes are not put together appropriately, the beam itself, the beam transmission, can cause a burn. The way that the rule states out in 17, by restricting the amount of body parts that we have to be able to provide, to log, to present to you guys, in reality doesn't let you know as an entity that this person is qualified in doing a Brazilian area, even down to the underarm. The underarm, we have deodorant. Deodorant can affect a laser and create a burn. So it really is imperative that when we are in a training platform that we don't have what's going on, which is we have some training facilities that are squishing 10 to 12 people, 8 people into a room with one body, and they're segmenting a lower leg out in 6 different parts, and the provider is not getting the education of how to body position, how to apply the product, how to navigate the machine. The hand pieces themselves can slide off the body with the gel that's on it, so it's really important that every single person be given an opportunity to treat full bodies over and over and over again. So I think limiting the amount of areas that we are able to log only inhibits the education and the quality of service that will then be provided safely and effectively by the practitioners to which we are certifying. Laser safety officers, the duties and responsibilities that we go over in safety per the rule. I often find that when I am teaching LSO responsibilities, in my heart of hearts, I just am very let down by the way that we have to then send them off into a facility. The facility wants to register. They must have an LSO on staff and on the paperwork to register. However, everything in that rule is not really released to the LSO. Managers and owners take over that responsibility without any knowledge of what the safe work practices are involving a laser. Our LSOs do not have the real availability to order goggles if they need them due to financials. They do not have the ability to shut down operations if the operator does feel as though the laser is improperly working. You hear a lot in the industry about people being told to put a towel over that, wrap it with the rubber band if water is coming out of the handpiece, if the handpiece is sparking, fire-produced hazards. Employers are telling them to push on. So your LSOs are being used for registration, but their actual duties are not being allowed to them as per the state. What was something else? For small business owners, the designated physician and consulting physician on the contract to be able to provide laser services, I do believe on a capacity level for a small business owner makes it very difficult. Doctors are needed, and the consulting physician part, having 2 on the contracts, I believe makes it very difficult for small business owners. Doctors want to be paid anywhere from $750 all the way up into $3,000 and $4,000. So just to be able to receive the necessary people that you need for your state licensure to register, 2 doctors is a bit excessive. What we're finding is the secondary doctor really doesn't end up doing much. It would really open up the borders a little bit to have a PA or an NP be available to be that consulting person for an emergency situation. Per TMB rule, yeah.
Is there a particular place in the rule that you're
Place,
looking?
Yeah, I'm on page 6, number D. Part of the rule, coming over, so I know I'm talking about some things that y'all are new to. So part of the rule as it stands states that any registered facility must have in contract 2 doctors. One doctor in multiple applications must put down their license and their name. The other one that has to be available for just an emergency in case the first one is not available, they just have to sign the document. They don't actually have to put their license down. What this does is it creates a bit of a problem for a lot of business owners because the doctors want their money. It doesn't mean that they're always there, but they definitely want their money. So this is 2 big checks that people have to write, on top of the fact that with TMB Rule 19317 states that anything outside of hair removal, which is what most of our facilities are offering, now they have to pay a nurse practitioner or a physician's assistant, not a registered nurse, not an LVN. So it's really negated from the overall safety of things. People are more concerned with all this money they're spending, and they're not able to, move forward in a lot of ways. You have nurses that are on site, and you have nurses that people are, having coming and doing in all these other services. So I just think that it would help the business operation itself. The 2 doctors is a bit excessive on a contract. A nurse and a delegating PA or NP is the right hand of a doctor. So just kind of mentioning that to open that up a little bit, it would be helpful again for your small business owners. Trying to see any other little things I had here. Just for you guys, there's been some things in the marketplace going around. There's some literature that I will email, as well as a couple of more questions. As far as safety and sanitation is concerned, there is a lot of documentation, a lot of clinical studies that have been produced in accordance with our safety as practitioners with plume. There's a lot of toxicity factors that are coming out with the carcinogens in hair. I just would like to state that I think it should be something that we have to then teach to people as far as using smoke evacuators or some kind of filtration system that we wear as providers, because there is hair plume and there is skin plume that happens with hair removal procedures, and we as providers are ingesting that, and there can be viruses and bacteria that people do ingest into their lungs. Other than that, the only thing that I wanted to state is just looking over the different schools. There are a lot of schools that are coming in and do provide website opportunities for people that are false, and a lot of students have paid a lot of money to, whether it's online education or facilities that are providing education that is not approved through TWC and taking people's money. And it's we get calls sometimes. There's a company that is similar to mine, and it's called Aesthetic Laser Academy Online. So people will search me, but then they find Aesthetic Laser Academy online, and they believe that that is me. They then take the course. I get a call from Department of State and Health Services saying, wow, how are you providing this online? That's not approved. Yet this person paid thousands of dollars to a company in upstate New York. I find that a lot of the students that go through the site to try to utilize and find applications information, it's a dig. And so they can't really find things easily. And finding the list of providers that are approved through the state is something that if we could make that a little easier.
Are you talking about the state's website or the?
Yes, Yes, at this point with where it's at, it's just amazing the amount of people that call saying, where can I find this, where can I find that? So it's a hard dig for some people to find where the approved agencies are and to be aware that what they're paying for is an approved, agency from the state that's gonna give them the licensure that they want. So, I think that's about it for me. No? Okay.
Thank you.
Done. Thank you.
It's a lot of information, appreciate it. Thank
Yeah.
you for sharing all of that with us. Is it anyone else wanting to talk about the rules? We've got a little more time, so we're happy to do that. Do you have the, yes, thank you. That's okay, that's okay, that's all right, thanks. If you just, again, just say your name and who you represent.
Okay. Hi, my name is Elisa Williams. I'm a small business owner. The name of my company is Brookland Laser. I've been in business for a year now, and I got my training from Michelle as well. Michelle, she touched on a lot of important topics that I agree with her on. Mainly when it comes to the doctors and having to set up a doctor in a consulting physician and a designated physician. It is kind of hard to do that. And a lot of doctors, they have their own practice. And when they go to vacation or something, they leave their practice to their PAs. And so I don't understand why they can't use their PAs or, a DO or somebody that can be the consulting physician. Also, laser hair removal is not considered a medical practice. When you talk to the Texas board, the Texas Medical Board, so that's another question I have for you guys is why is it considered a medical practice? And so with my business, I only do laser hair removal. I do have a machine that can do more than just laser hair removal, but right now it's only laser hair removal. So the scope of my business is really specific. So it's those are my questions I have for the medical board is why is it considered a medical procedure? I mean, it's not considered a medical procedure to the Texas Medical Board. Another thing is the CEUs that we need to get for our requirement every 2 years. It's kind of hard to get those. There's not many places that are offering these courses. And again, there's no way for us to find out who's offering it. So a little clarity on that would be good. The other question I had was, I think Michelle, she touched on it a lot, the non-ablative and the ablative procedures. There's a big difference between those who do non-ablative compared to those who do ablative. And there should be some type of rule requirement that kind of separates that from everybody. Next thing is every 2 year, the fee for laser hair removal facilities. It's a bit high, especially for small business owners who are doing one service. I'm not sure what number it is on here. But,
The fees
that's-
are in 118.80 on starting on page 21.
21. Yes, $12.50.
$12.50.
So it is kind of hard for a small business to start out in this field, but it is possible, but it is kind of hard. And that's all I have for you guys.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you very much for your comments and appreciate your input. Anyone else or any other? Okay, well, thanks. Well, again, we're going to, everything that was said here today, we're going to take that into account as we go forward in this rulemaking process, and to see whether there needs to be any changes to the rules as they've been drafted thus far. And we're also going to take into account all the written comments that we receive as part of that as well, and that'll go before our commission on July 14th is the plan. So thank you for being here today. I really appreciate your participation and your comments. And with that, we'll go ahead and end the hearing. Thank you.